In this video, I'm gonna give you my top 10 tips for painting flowers. Hi, welcome to Paint Coach. I'm Chris Fornatero here to help simplify oil painting so you can get better faster. All right, before we start, I just want to let you know if you like this video, if you like this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have other questions on painting flowers by the end of this video, please leave those questions in the comment section. I will answer them or I will address them in a later video. If you have other questions on oil painting in general and you have ideas for other videos you would like to see, let me know about those too, because I will make those videos. I'm making videos based off what you need. Also, if you want to know what kind of supplies I use, I put links to all the supplies that I use in the description below. It is all good quality materials that won't break the bank. Painting flowers, a lot to get into today, so I'm just going to jump on in it with tip number 10. All right, use a good reference. Now, whether you're painting from real life or if you're taking a photo, make sure the lighting is a good direct light source. That's what I did with this one. I took a bunch of photos actually and set up the light so it was a direct light source, so I had very clear shadows and very clear highlights. A lot of times there's photos out there, whether you're taking them offline, taking them yourself, or if you're painting directly from life, like the lighting can be too soft. There aren't really distinct shadows and highlights. I mean, you can paint that. There are really good paintings like that, but I've found it easier when there is very distinct light and shadow. It's very easy to distinguish, especially for somebody starting out. You want to set yourself up for success. You want to build your confidence. You want to produce a good painting, and you have the most chance of doing that if you have a good reference photo with very good distinct light and darks. Also, making sure that it's a good quality photo. If you're not taking it yourself, making sure you're getting a photo that you can actually see some detail and know what's going on. So taking a good reference photo or setting up your still life with a good direct light source is a great way to set yourself up for success. Set up a good composition. This is very important if you're painting multiple flowers. If you have a bouquet of flowers, you're painting in a garden or something, understand composition. Understand, the rule of thirds. I made sure to have only 3 flowers in this, and they kind of step back in a way, kind of leading your eye into it. It's the last thing you want is, very evenly spaced out, even number of flowers, or just a composition that's not too interesting. So just be aware of that. Even if you're doing a study, it's always good to be aware of composition, and it helps produce a better painting, even if you're doing a small study. So just be aware when you're setting up your painting to think about the composition, think about the weight of where the objects are in the painting, and making the painting interesting as a whole, not just a study of a flower. I do plan on making a video on composition in general in the future, so another reason for you to subscribe so you don't miss when I come out with that. Don't get caught up in the details too early. This is a big one. A lot of people see flowers and they see all these little petals and they're overlapping, they're folding, and they're getting so worried about putting these little petals in place in the right area and drawing it perfectly right. Don't get caught up in that. I did a very loose drawing. I didn't even really draw the petals, just kind of drew the outline of the flowers, and I was more focused on getting the shape of the flower down first. I squint my eyes and I just see the main colors and main values and shapes, and I just want to really translate what I'm seeing with the shape of the flower, that spherical quality. I want to get that. I want to get where the shadow is. I want to get where the light is. I want to get the colors. I want to get that dark color down deep into the center. I don't want to do the highlights just yet, but my main goal is just to get the general shape and value of the flower first. Don't go jumping on in there trying with a little brush, getting every single little petal right exactly. There will be time for that later. Lay in your darks first. Now, I particularly like to work dark to light. It's not the only way to work, but with this I feel like it helps a lot, because the darkest parts of the flower are going to be the ones that is the parts that's further to the center of the flower, because I mean the petals are translucent, so light is going through them, but the more petals the light goes through, the darker it's going to get. That's why the center is very dark, or deep down the folds, the cracks of the petals is going to be really dark, and the very lights is going to be the tops, the very tips and rims of the petals is going to be the lightest, because that's where the light's coming from. And so the further you get deep down into the flower, the darker it's going to be. So as you go, it's going to get lighter, and so the last paint that you're going to be putting on the flower should be the lightest paint, and that's going to be over top of the dark paint, which is going to be the center of the flower. So it just kind of makes sense to lay down those darks first, so you can build to the light, and you create that illusion of the darks being at the center of the flower and underneath all these petals. And it just, with flowers, things get so intricate with all the different folds and the petals and everything. So getting down those darks first is very, very helpful. Do not wait too long to put the colors in around your flower, whether it's the background or the leaves. Make sure to get some color in there earlier rather than later, so that you have something to compare your flower to. You don't want just your flower against a plain white canvas. It's going to be really hard to judge the colors and the values. And also you want, you're painting the flower, but you're also painting, the space that the flower is occupying. And the more you can nail that, the more it's going to help with the painting of the flower. So get that background color in, or the leaves color in, to use as a tool to help you make decisions when you're making or when you're painting the flower, because that color is going to influence what you're doing on the flower. Don't use pure white. All right, when you get to the brightest brights, the brightest highlights in your flower, it's going to be very tempting to want to use pure white, especially when I'm painting a white flower here. I don't recommend doing that, because once you do, it leaves you absolutely nowhere to go, and you really don't see that much in life. That's only going to be in photos. You're going to see stuff that's blown out and gone to pure white, and it's just not as interesting. If you need to make a really, really bright light, and you lay it down, you just need to really show some restraint and not push all the way to pure white. And if you are putting your lightest light in and it's just not working, you're just not getting that pop, and you want to go to pure white, and it's just because you really want to get that really bright highlight and it's not working, that can actually be resolved by going into tip number 4. So if your lights aren't light enough, it's probably because your darks aren't dark enough. If you've laid in your brightest highlight and you're just not getting that pop, that good strong highlight, chances are you haven't made your darks dark enough. So look at the colors around your light color. Could they be pushed a little bit darker? And you'll see that once you do that, it will make the lights seem a lot lighter and brighter. That's what I do in this. I constantly going back and darkening the shadow areas and even the midtones, just kind of taking it down a notch, just to bump up those highlights without having to go to pure white. So if you're not getting the highlights you like, look at your shadows. The problem actually might be in there. Always be checking your values. Now, I've said this a lot in a lot of videos, but if it helps, you can always put your reference photo in black and white. Whenever I paint, I do like to have a color version and a black and white version, just to check my values. And again, values is how light or dark something is. And it's very easy to push the darks too dark and the brights too bright, especially with a flower. It can be very easy with like the creases of the petals and deep in the fold to make those darks too dark. But just be constantly comparing how dark your darkest dark is to your brightest bright, or the colors, that are the values that are touching each other, like how much darker is, this petal to that petal, oh, it's, from this petal to that petal is not that big of a difference as I have it on my painting. My painting, it's like a big difference, I need to fix that, So just be aware of that. I think it's very important with flowers, because the value shifts can be so subtle from petal to petal. So just be aware, very aware of your values. Look for reflected light. This is something I noticed way later in my painting. I noticed there's a very cool, almost purplish blue, and it was reflected light. I'm not sure where. There must have been probably the cooler light from my window when I was taking the photos, but it's added a lot, and it was in the shadows, so I had to be very careful with the value of the color. But these petals are reflecting light, they're transparent, there a lot of interesting things are happening with light with flowers, which is why they're so interesting to paint. But look for those reflected lights, and you might have to get pretty close, or blow up your photo, whatever you're doing, but look for the reflected light, because it can really add a good little accent and a good little pop to your painting that makes it very interesting. Detail isn't everything. Now, there are some paintings out there with the flowers that get really detailed. That's cool. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But you'd be surprised at how much you can communicate a flower with so little. And me personally, I find that very interesting when people are able to paint something with a limited number of brush strokes, a limited amount of detail. There's a lot of good floral painters out there, and their paintings are even looser than what I've done here. And a lot of ways it's more difficult, but I think it shows a very strong understanding of the shape of a flower, the value and color, is that they don't need to go into all the specific detail to translate this flower perfectly. Now, I don't paint flowers too much. I'm not the best at it, but I will put a link to a really good floral painter, Daniel Keys, in the description below. He's got some great tutorials. You want to check him out. He specializes in painting flowers, and he's very good and a good person to look at for a very loose, expressive style of painting flowers. Right, so that's all my tips on painting flowers. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at Forza43. See what I'm painting on a daily basis. If you need some materials, you want to know what I use, I got links to those in the description below. They're inexpensive materials, but good quality, the best bang you can get for your buck, in my opinion. So, I'm Chris Fornatero, here telling you to go get painting and root for the Steelers this year.